Have you ever felt like love wasn't meant for you? That's where our story begins today, with two broken hearts about to collide in the most unexpected way. If this journey of second chances touches your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to see more stories that remind us all that hope is never truly lost. The coffee shop buzzed with afternoon energy as Emma Matthews nervously checked her watch for the third time in 5 minutes. She tucked a strand of chestnut hair behind her ear and adjusted her navy blouse, wondering if she should just leave before he arrived. Blind dates were terrible ideas, especially for someone like her. "Excuse me, are you Emma?" She looked up to see a tall man with kind eyes and slightly disheveled dark hair. He wore a simple button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up, revealing forearms marked with what appeared to be colorful marker stains. "Yes, that's me," she replied, attempting a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "You must be Daniel." "Guilty as charged," he said with a warm smile, sliding into the seat across from her. "Sorry I'm running a bit late. My daughter's art project took longer than expected." He held up his hands, showing faint traces of glitter. Apparently, princesses need extra sparkle these days. Emma's tension eased slightly at his casual mention of his daughter. Her friend Melissa had mentioned he was a single dad, but Emma had been too nervous about the date itself to ask for details. "How old is your daughter?" she asked, grateful for an easy conversation starter. "Lily just turned 6 last month." "She's my whole world," Daniel said, his eyes lighting up. "What about you?" "Melissa mentioned you're a pediatric nurse." "I am," Emma nodded. 7 years now at Children's Memorial. The conversation flowed more easily than Emma had expected as they ordered coffee. Daniel was attentive and asked thoughtful questions about her work. He didn't seem put off by her initial nervousness, which gradually melted away as they talked. Until the inevitable awkward silence fell. Daniel tilted his head slightly. "You seem like you'd rather be anywhere but here. Am I that boring already?" His tone was light, but his eyes were searching. Emma felt her cheeks flush. "No, not at all. It's just..." She hesitated, then sighed. "I'm terrible at this. Dating, I mean. I don't think anyone's actually good at dating," Daniel offered with a small smile. "It's awkward by design." "No, it's more than that." Emma stared down at her coffee cup. Something about Daniel's gentle demeanor made her want to be honest. "The truth is, no one wants to date me, mister," she said softly. "Not for long, anyway." Daniel's eyebrows rose slightly. "I find that very hard to believe." Emma gave a humorless laugh. "It's true. I've been told I'm too serious, too dedicated to my job. The last guy I dated said I was emotionally unavailable because I couldn't drop everything when he wanted to go out." She shrugged. Maybe he was right. Daniel was quiet for a moment, studying her face. "Can I tell you something, Emma? Something I don't usually share on first dates?" She nodded, curious despite herself. 3 years ago, I was married. We had Lily, our beautiful baby girl, and I thought we had everything figured out." His voice grew softer. "Then my wife decided that family life wasn't what she wanted after all. She left when Lily was 3, and we haven't heard from her since." Emma's heart clenched. "Daniel, I'm so sorry." He shook his head. "I'm not telling you this for sympathy. I'm telling you because after she left, I thought the same thing you just said. That no one would want to date me, a single dad with a young child and all the complications that come with that package." He leaned forward slightly. "But here's what I've learned, Emma. People who walk away because your life has depth and meaning and responsibilities, they're doing you a favor. They're not your people." Emma felt something shift inside her chest, a knot loosening that had been tight for so long she'd forgotten it was there. "Your dedication to your job isn't a flaw," Daniel continued. "It means you care deeply about something that matters. That's rare and valuable." His smile returned, warming his entire face. And for what it's worth, I find it incredibly attractive. Emma felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes, surprised by the sudden emotion. You don't even know me. I'd like to, though, he said simply. If you'll let me. That first coffee date lasted 3 hours. They talked about everything: Daniel's architectural firm where he'd arranged flexible hours to accommodate Lily's schedule, Emma's challenging but rewarding work with sick children, their shared love of old movies and hiking trails. When they finally parted ways, Emma felt lighter than she had in years. Daniel had asked if he could see her again, and for the first time in a long time, she'd said yes without hesitation. Their second date was at a small Italian restaurant where Daniel confessed that Lily had helped him pick out his shirt. She said blue brings out my eyes, he'd explained with an embarrassed laugh. She's very invested in this date going well. And why is that? Emma had asked, charmed by the thought of a little girl helping her father get ready. Because I came home smiling after our coffee, he'd admitted. Lily noticed. By their third date, Emma found herself sharing things she rarely talked about: her parents' difficult divorce when she was 12, her struggle through nursing school while working 2 jobs, the patient she'd lost last year who still haunted her dreams. Daniel listened in a way that made her feel truly heard. He didn't offer empty platitudes or try to fix things. He simply acknowledged her feelings and shared his own vulnerabilities in return. I'm terrified of messing up with Lily, he confessed one evening as they walked along the riverfront. Every decision feels so important. What if I make the wrong ones? Emma had reached for his hand then, their fingers intertwining naturally. The fact that you worry about it probably means you're doing better than you think. 2 months into their relationship, Emma finally met Lily. They'd planned carefully, both aware of how important this step was. Daniel had explained to his daughter that he had a special friend he wanted her to meet, but had been clear that Emma wasn't a replacement for her mother. They met at a playground on a sunny Saturday morning. Emma had been more nervous than for any job interview or first date. You must be Lily, Emma said, kneeling down to the little girl's level. Your dad has told me so much about you. Lily regarded her solemnly with eyes that matched her father's. Do you like dinosaurs? She asked without preamble. Emma smiled. I do. Especially the Triceratops. Lily's face lit up. That's my second favorite. T-Rex is first because they have tiny arms but big teeth. She demonstrated with her own arms, making a fierce face that was more adorable than frightening. Very scary, Emma agreed seriously. Would you like to show me how high you can swing? By the end of the morning, Lily was holding Emma's hand as they walked to get ice cream, chattering about her kindergarten class and her best friend Zoe who could do cartwheels. She likes you, Daniel murmured as Lily ran ahead to look at the ice cream flavors. I can tell. I like her too, Emma replied honestly. She's amazing, Daniel. His eyes softened. Thank you for being so good with her. It's easy, Emma said, and meant it. Their relationship wasn't without challenges. Emma's schedule at the hospital sometimes meant cancelled plans. Daniel occasionally had to prioritize Lily's needs over date nights. There were misunderstandings and adjustments as they learned to navigate each other's lives. 6 months in, they faced their first real test when Lily came down with pneumonia and had to be hospitalized for 3 days. Emma found herself in the strange position of being both a medical professional and a concerned, what? She wasn't Lily's mother, wasn't even Daniel's wife, yet the fear she felt was visceral and real. She stayed at the hospital with them, using her connections to ensure Lily had the best care, bringing Daniel coffee when he refused to leave his daughter's bedside, explaining medical terms and procedures to ease his worry. When Lily was finally discharged, Daniel pulled Emma into a tight embrace in the hospital parking lot. I don't know how I would have gotten through this without you, he whispered against her hair. You would have, she assured him. You're stronger than you think. He pulled back to look at her, his expression serious. Maybe. But I don't want to do any of this without you anymore, Emma. I love you. It was the first time he'd said the words, though she'd felt them growing between them for weeks. Instead of panic, she felt a profound sense of rightness. I love you too, she replied, the words coming easily. Both of you. On their one-year anniversary, Daniel took Emma back to the coffee shop where they'd first met. Lily was spending the night with Daniel's parents, giving them a rare evening alone. Do you remember what you said to me that first day? Daniel asked as they settled at the same table they'd occupied a year before. Emma smiled. I believe I told you that no one wanted to date me. And I didn't believe you then, he said, reaching across the table to take her hand. I believe it even less now. He pulled a small velvet box from his pocket and placed it on the table between them. Emma's breath caught. Daniel. I had a whole speech prepared, he said, his voice slightly unsteady. About how you've changed my life and Lily's. About how you've shown me what real partnership feels like. About how I never thought I'd find someone who would embrace not just me, but my daughter and all the complications that come with us. Emma felt tears welling in her eyes as he opened the box to reveal a simple but elegant diamond ring. But what it comes down to is this: I love you, Emma Matthews. Lily loves you. We want you to be part of our family officially. He took a deep breath. Will you marry me? Emma thought about the woman she'd been a year ago, convinced that her dedication to her career and her serious nature made her unlovable. She thought about the journey they'd taken together, the trust they'd built, the family they were creating. Yes, she said, her voice breaking with emotion. Yes, I will. As Daniel slipped the ring onto her finger, she added with a watery laugh, I guess someone wants to date me after all. Not just date you, Daniel corrected, leaning across the table to kiss her. Love you. Forever. Their wedding was small but joyful, held in Daniel's parents' backyard the following spring. Lily served as flower girl, taking her duties so seriously that she practiced for weeks to get her petal-throwing technique just right. Emma's colleagues from the hospital filled the seats on her side, having become her family over the years. Her favorite patient, a 12-year-old cancer survivor named Max, was given the honor of carrying the rings. When it came time for vows, Daniel went first, his voice steady and sure as he promised to love and cherish Emma for all their days together. Then it was Emma's turn. She looked at Daniel, then at Lily who was watching with wide, hopeful eyes, and finally at the small gathering of people who had come to celebrate with them. Daniel, when we met, I told you that no one wanted to date me, she began. I believed that with my whole heart. I thought there was something fundamentally unlovable about me, that I was too serious, too dedicated to my work, too set in my ways. She squeezed his hands. You didn't try to change me. Instead, you showed me that the very things I thought made me unlovable were actually worthy of love. You taught me that being passionate about my work isn't a flaw, it's a strength. You helped me see that having high standards isn't being difficult, it's knowing my worth. Emma turned slightly to include Lily in her gaze. And you both showed me that family isn't something I had to choose instead of my career, it's something that makes everything else more meaningful. She took a deep breath. I promise to love you both with everything I am. I promise to be patient when life gets complicated, to be strong when you need support, and to never take for granted the beautiful gift you've given me, a family of my own. There wasn't a dry eye in the gathering as they were pronounced husband and wife. As Daniel kissed her, Emma heard Lily's delighted giggle and felt the little girl wrap her arms around both their legs in a group hug. Later, during their first dance, Daniel whispered in her ear, "Happy?" Emma looked around at the twinkling lights, at Lily dancing with her grandfather, at the faces of friends and family sharing their joy. More than I ever thought possible, she answered truthfully. 5 years later, Emma sat in a different coffee shop, watching as Daniel helped their 3-year-old son Noah carefully sip his hot chocolate while Lily, now 11, told them about her science project. And Mrs. Hernandez said my hypothesis was the most original in the class, Lily concluded proudly. That's wonderful, sweetheart, Emma said, reaching out to tuck a strand of hair behind Lily's ear, a gesture that had become natural over the years. Mom, can we go to the museum this weekend to research more about ecosystems? Lily asked. The word mom still gave Emma a warm glow, even though Lily had started using it 3 years ago. It had been Lily's idea, announced matter-of-factly one morning over breakfast. I think I want to call you Mom now, if that's okay. Emma had been too choked up to speak, simply nodding as Daniel squeezed her hand under the table. The museum sounds perfect, Emma agreed. Noah will love the dinosaur exhibit too. Dino! Noah exclaimed, chocolate mustache decorating his upper lip. Daniel caught Emma's eye over their children's heads, his expression full of love and contentment. She knew he was thinking the same thing she was, how far they'd come from that first blind date when she'd been so certain no one would ever want her. Life wasn't perfect. They still had challenges, busy schedules, occasional disagreements, the everyday stresses of raising 2 children while maintaining demanding careers. But they faced it all together, as a team, with a foundation of respect and understanding that made even the difficult days manageable. Later that night, after the children were asleep, Emma found Daniel on the back porch, looking up at the stars. Penny for your thoughts, she said, wrapping her arms around him from behind. He turned in her embrace to face her. I was just thinking about how lucky I am. How lucky we all are. Because of the beautiful night, she teased gently. Because of you, he said seriously. Because you took a chance on a blind date even though you were convinced it wouldn't work out. Because you opened your heart to me and to Lily when it would have been easier to keep your walls up. Emma rested her head against his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. I think we saved each other, she said softly. Maybe that's what love is supposed to do, Daniel replied, kissing the top of her head. As they stood together under the vast canopy of stars, Emma thought about the woman she'd been, convinced that her dedication and seriousness made her unlovable. She thought about the journey that had brought her here, to this family that was now the center of her world. Sometimes the greatest love stories begin with the words, no one wants to date me, and end with the discovery that the right person doesn't just want to date you. They want to build a life with you, exactly as you are. 10 years after that fateful blind date, Emma stood in the doorway of Lily's bedroom, watching as her 16-year-old daughter carefully applied mascara in front of her mirror. First dates are overrated, Lily declared, meeting Emma's eyes in the reflection. I'm only going because Zoe says Jason is nice. Emma smiled, recognizing her own long-ago nervousness in Lily's fidgeting hands. You know, I almost canceled my first date with your dad. Lily turned around, curiosity brightening her features. Really? But you guys are like, the perfect couple. Emma laughed and came to sit on the edge of Lily's bed. Far from perfect. But that day, I was convinced no one would want to date me once they got to know the real me. That's ridiculous, Lily said with the absolute certainty of a teenager. You're amazing. Thank you, sweetheart. But back then, I didn't see myself that way. Emma smoothed a wrinkle on Lily's comforter. I'd been told I was too serious, too focused on my career. I believed there was something wrong with me. Lily abandoned her makeup to sit beside Emma. What did Dad say when you told him that? He said the people who couldn't appreciate my dedication were doing me a favor by walking away. That they weren't my people. Emma smiled at the memory. He helped me see that what I thought were flaws were actually strengths. Lily was quiet for a moment, absorbing this. I'm nervous about tonight, she finally admitted. What if Jason thinks I'm too much? I know I talk a lot about things I'm passionate about. Emma put her arm around Lily's shoulders. Then he's not your person. The right people in your life, friends, boyfriends, whoever, will love your enthusiasm, not be put off by it. Like Dad loves your seriousness? Exactly like that. Lily leaned her head against Emma's shoulder. Thanks, Mom. The word still filled Emma with warmth, even after all these years. For what it's worth, Emma added, I think anyone would be lucky to date you. But there's no rush to find the one. You have plenty of time. I know, Lily said, straightening up with renewed confidence. And I have pretty high standards, thanks to you and Dad. From downstairs, they heard Daniel calling up, Lily. Your date's here. Lily took a deep breath, gave herself one last look in the mirror, and headed for the door. She paused in the doorway. Mom? I'm really glad you didn't cancel that date with Dad. Me too, sweetheart, Emma said softly. Me too. Later that evening, with Lily out on her date and 8-year-old Noah having a sleepover at a friend's house, Emma and Daniel found themselves with a rare quiet night at home. Wine? Daniel offered, already pulling out 2 glasses. Please, Emma said, sinking onto the couch with a contented sigh. I can't believe Lily's old enough to be dating. Daniel handed her a glass and sat beside her. I can't believe you let me answer the door when that boy arrived. Poor kid looked terrified. Emma laughed. You weren't that bad. I didn't say a word. I just looked at him. Exactly. Your protective dad face is legendary. She took a sip of wine. But you were right not to give him the 3rd degree. Lily would have been mortified. Daniel nodded, his expression growing more serious. She's growing up so fast. Both of them are. That's what children do, Emma said gently. But we've given them strong roots. They'll be okay. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the kind that only comes after years of knowing someone deeply. Do you ever think about that first date? Daniel asked suddenly. About how different our lives would be if you'd cancelled, or if I'd been late enough that you'd already left. Emma considered this. Sometimes. But I think maybe we were meant to find each other, one way or another. The nurse and the architect, Daniel mused. Both convinced we were undateable for completely opposite reasons. And both completely wrong, Emma added, leaning against his shoulder. Daniel set down his wine glass and took her hand, running his thumb over the wedding ring he'd placed there 9 years ago. I've been thinking, he said, his tone shifting slightly. Always dangerous, Emma teased. He smiled. With Noah in school full-time now and your new position at the hospital giving you more regular hours. Yes? Emma prompted when he paused. What would you think about fostering? There are so many kids who need stable homes, even temporarily. With our experience and your medical background. Emma felt her heart expand in her chest. They discussed this years ago but had decided to wait until their lives were more settled. You're serious? I am, Daniel said. But only if you are too. It would be a big change. Emma thought about their journey, how a single conversation in a coffee shop had grown into this life they'd built together. She thought about all the children she'd cared for at the hospital who went home to empty houses or overburdened foster homes. I think it's a wonderful idea, she said softly. We have so much love to give. Daniel's face lit up with the same warm smile that had first melted her defenses a decade ago. We do, don't we? And think of what great helpers Lily and Noah would be, Emma continued, the idea taking root and blossoming in her mind. Lily's always been so nurturing. She gets that from you, Daniel said, squeezing her hand. Emma shook her head. From both of us. You're the one who taught me that family isn't just about blood, it's about who you choose to love. Daniel leaned in to kiss her, soft and sweet. Best choice I ever made. 6 months later, their family expanded to include 5-year-old twins, Mia and Marcus, foster children who had been removed from an unsafe home. The adjustment wasn't always easy. The twins had experienced trauma that manifested in nightmares and behavioral challenges, but the whole family embraced them with open hearts. Lily proved to be an exceptional big sister, reading bedtime stories and helping with homework. Noah was thrilled to no longer be the youngest and took his role as big brother very seriously, teaching the twins how to build elaborate Lego structures and the rules of his favorite board games. Emma's medical knowledge and Daniel's patience created a stable environment where the twins began to flourish. When their caseworker visited 3 months after placement, she was amazed at the transformation. "They're like different children," she remarked, watching as Marcus laughed at something Daniel said while they worked on a puzzle together. Across the room, Mia was curled up next to Emma on the couch, listening intently as Emma explained a picture book about emotions. "They just needed to feel safe," Emma said simply. "And loved." The caseworker nodded. "Not every family can handle siblings, especially ones with their history. You've done wonders." Later that night, after all 4 children were finally asleep, Emma found Daniel in their home office, working on plans for an addition to the house. "Another bedroom?" she asked, peering over his shoulder at the blueprints. "2, actually," he said. "I'm thinking long-term. If the twins stay permanently." Emma's heart skipped. They hadn't discussed adoption yet, though she'd been thinking about it more and more. The twins' parents' rights were in the process of being terminated due to severe neglect and abandonment. "You want to adopt them," she said. It wasn't a question. Daniel turned to face her. "I do. They feel like ours already, don't they? But I wanted to make sure you feel the same way before I mentioned it." Emma felt tears spring to her eyes. "I was afraid to bring it up. 4 kids is a lot, and with both our careers. We'll make it work," Daniel said with the quiet confidence that had anchored their relationship from the beginning. "We always do." Emma wrapped her arms around him. "When did we become these people? The ones with the big, beautiful, complicated family?" Daniel chuckled. "I think it started the moment you told me no one wanted to date you, and I decided to prove you wrong." 15 years after their first date, Emma and Daniel stood together in their backyard, surrounded by family and friends. Fairy lights twinkled in the trees, and long tables were set up for the celebration. "Speech! Speech!" called several voices as Daniel tapped his glass for attention. He cleared his throat, looking around at the gathering. "Thank you all for coming to celebrate our 15th anniversary. When Emma and I met, we were both convinced that love wasn't in the cards for us. I was a single dad with a young daughter, and Emma was a workaholic," called one of Emma's hospital colleagues, causing laughter to ripple through the crowd. "A dedicated professional," Daniel corrected with a grin. "Who told me on our very first date that no one wanted to date her." He turned to Emma, his eyes soft with love. 15 years, 4 amazing children, 2 career changes, 1 major renovation, and countless challenges later, I still wake up every day grateful that you were wrong about that." Emma smiled through happy tears as their children gathered around them, Lily, now 21 and home from college for the celebration, Noah, 13 and growing taller by the day, and the twins, Mia and Marcus, 10 years old and officially Matthews Clarks for the past 8 years. "To Mom and Dad," Lily said, raising her glass. "Who taught us that love isn't about finding someone perfect, it's about finding someone who sees your imperfections as strengths." "To Mom and Dad," echoed the other children, even though the twins were holding apple juice instead of champagne. As the celebration continued around them, Daniel pulled Emma close. "Any regrets?" he murmured against her hair. Emma looked at their yard filled with people they loved, their children, friends who had become family, colleagues who had supported them through difficult times, the community they had built together. "Not a single one," she said truthfully. "Except maybe that I almost talked myself out of meeting you that day." "But you didn't," Daniel reminded her. "You took a chance." "Best risk I ever took," Emma said, standing on tiptoe to kiss him as their family cheered around them. 20 years after Emma had sat in that coffee shop, convinced that no one would ever truly want her, she stood in another coffee shop, this one owned by her and Daniel as a retirement project. They had opened it after Emma had finally stepped back from full-time nursing and Daniel had handed over the daily operations of his architecture firm to younger partners. The coffee corner had become a neighborhood fixture, known for its comfortable atmosphere and the owners who seemed to genuinely care about every person who walked through the door. "Your usual, Mrs. Abernathy?" Emma asked the elderly woman who came in every morning at precisely 9 o'clock. "Yes, dear, thank you," Mrs. Abernathy replied, settling into her favorite armchair by the window. "Is Daniel making those cinnamon rolls today?" Just came out of the oven, Daniel called from behind the counter, where he was arranging pastries in the display case. The bell over the door jingled, and Emma looked up to see a young woman enter. She appeared to be in her late 20s, smartly dressed but with an anxious expression that Emma recognized immediately. "Welcome," Emma said warmly. "What can I get for you?" "Just a black coffee, please," the woman replied, glancing at her watch. "I'm meeting someone here. A blind date, actually." She gave a self-conscious laugh. "Probably a mistake." Emma exchanged a look with Daniel, who raised an eyebrow with a small smile. "First dates can be nerve-wracking," Emma acknowledged as she prepared the coffee. "I almost walked out of mine 20 years ago." The young woman looked up with interest. "What happened?" "He showed up just in time," Emma said, nodding toward Daniel. "And changed my life." "You met on a blind date?" the woman asked, visibly relaxing a little. "We did. I told him no one wanted to date me within the first 10 minutes. Emma handed over the coffee with a smile. "He disagreed." The woman's eyes widened. "That's exactly how I feel right now. Like I'm undateable." "Because you're too focused on your career?" Emma guessed. "How did you know?" "Let's just say I've been there." Emma gestured to a table near the window. "That's a good spot for a first date. You can see who's coming in, and there's an easy exit if you need it." The young woman laughed. "Thanks for the strategic advice." As she settled at the table, the bell jingled again, and a man about her age entered, looking around uncertainly. Emma caught the young woman's eye and gave her an encouraging nod. Sometimes history had a way of repeating itself in the most beautiful ways. Later, after the young couple had been deep in conversation for over an hour, Daniel slid his arm around Emma's waist. "Reminds me of us," he murmured. Emma leaned into his embrace. "I was thinking the same thing." They watched as the young woman laughed at something her date said, her earlier anxiety completely gone. "Do you think they'll make it?" Daniel asked. Emma smiled. "I don't know. But I hope she gives him a chance to prove her wrong, about being undateable. Like you did with me?" "Exactly like that." Emma turned to face her husband, the man who had seen beyond her walls and loved her for exactly who she was. "Best decision I ever made." As they shared a quick kiss, the coffee shop hummed with conversation and laughter around them, a warm, welcoming space where new beginnings were always possible, even for those who believed love wasn't meant for them. Because sometimes, the most beautiful love stories start with the words, "No one wants to date me," and end with a lifetime of proving just how wrong those words were. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more stories that remind us all that love often finds us when we least expect it, and sometimes, the very things we believe make us unlovable are exactly what make us perfect for someone else. Remember that everyone deserves to be loved for exactly who they are, and the right person won't ask you to change, they'll simply help you see your own worth more clearly.